Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. We get another drop for Rage of the Abyss tonight. Some interesting stuff here. I had enough time to read over most of them just because the first couple got translated earlier on and then took a while for the other ones to come, so I had a chance to give them a quick read. I put them in order of how intriguing I think they are, but I do think they all have something going on with them. These are basically free agent slots in the deck, 4 different cards here. They're just generic, decent cards that could have some utility in a couple different decks, but let's see how we go. Alright, starting off here, we start with Little Magi Mage. This is actually a level 2 Dark Cyberse effect monster. Feels like it's been a while since we've seen like actual new Cyberse support. This is 0 attack, 1200 defense. You can only use its first effect once per turn. During the main phase, if this card is in your hand, quick effect, you contribute 1 Cyberse monster or Link monster to special summon this card. Second effect, gains attack equal to the total Link ratings of all Link monsters in your graveyard times 400. This card's fine. Honestly, if this effect, they almost went ahead and made this a hand trap, right? Like, if this was almost close enough to being like a searchable hand trap for Cyberse decks, if they had just made this like tribute to Cyberse or Link, special summon this, and then let's say negate a card on the field, send a card, bounce a card, whatever, but it still forces you to set up a Cyberse or a Link monster and tribute one to you know what I mean, to summon it. So you are paying some cost there and having to get some setup, but just summoning itself, I'm not sure is enough. The attack, though, is interesting for just Cyberse decks in general. Usually you're putting a good bit in the graveyard, right? Like 400, too, for every Link rating. You know, if you just get 5 Link rating total, that's a Link 1, a Link 2, and a Link 3. That's already 6, so that's 2,400 just with that. If you get to a 10 Link rating, this card's already 4,000. It gets pretty legit pretty quickly here, which Cyberse decks can definitely facilitate. But aside from being a really big beater, I'm not totally sure what this card's really doing for Cyberse decks that they don't already have access to. It's fine. Next card, we move to Atomic Breath, this is Final Bringer's Bellow. New quick play spell card. You've actually seen a couple of interesting quick plays the last couple of core sets, so let's see if this one keeps that going. You can only activate 1 card of this card's name per turn. Perfect. Hard once per turn. Target 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. Destroy them. Okay. Yeah, this is interesting. Like, this to me is a type of card that I felt like we could have seen a long time ago in terms of power creep. Now, maybe Konami didn't want to go in that direction just because if they ever made a card that was just like quick play spell, quick effect, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. Even though it's targeting, even though it's destruction, which is technically like the worst kind of removal in the game, destruction and target based, maybe just the sheer versatility would have made that card just like actually legitimately good, especially depending on when they made it. I'm not sure if it would for sure see play in modern day, but pretty versatile card, right? Going first, you said it's just a dry ink. Going second, and actually being a quick play, finding, you know, really good opportunities to chain it in certain situations can definitely have some good going second potential as well. But this card's a little bit worse than that, right? You have to give up a monster you control, but some decks also float. So maybe in a strategy like Unchained, if we ever get to a point where, for example, if Shavara comes back to 3 and like Unchained is like a legit variant you might want to play, like a more pure variant, not just like a small Unchained package in like a Yubel deck, I could see something like this being pretty good, where you're like already playing all of the Aruhas and Saramas and all those, making this card actually pretty interesting in a deck like that. But other than like specific decks that has synergy in, I'm just not sure it's going to be worth it overall. But still an interesting card for sure. All right, next up we move to a fusion card. This is Eos Varag, Forger of the Dawn. This is a level 7 light machine fusion effect monster. 0 attack, 2800 defense. Literally no attack. 2 light machine monsters. Wow, who would have thought a card that looks like this would have been like just straight up Cyber Dragon support? Seemed pretty clear. Okay, so any two light machines, that also makes this technically like a super poly target as well. It doesn't take any two machines. They do have to be light, which is not always the most common attribute for machine monsters. But if Cyber Dragon never become good again, we have the ABC deck walking around right now. That means super poly versus them could actually cook them up, because they actually like being able to end on both ABC Dragon Buster and the new XYZ. That's very similar. So being able to just clear both of those without them being able to respond and summon a negate of your own, pretty interesting. You can only use the first and second effects of this card once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, you can activate this effect. During the standby phase of the next turn, you can add one card from your graveyard to your hand with an effect that fusion summons. Wow, that's actually kind of spicy too. So that means if you super poly into this, you trigger this on summon, and then you add back the super poly on the next standby phase. That's pretty cool. Or obviously not just super poly, but like potentially like Cyber Dragons could maybe even be able to make this in their own deck, but they're not really fusion based, and neither is ABC. Like, they're fusion based, but they don't have a fusion spell, these decks, so they wouldn't like at least get into this. I think the Cyber Dragon fusion spells, at least the searchable one, I think Cyber Load Fusion only summons like a Cyber Dragon fusion, not a generic fusion, unfortunately. So I don't know if they search their way into a way to fuse into this consistently. Alright, second effect, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, quick effect, banish a face-up light machine monster you control or 2 light machine monsters from your graveyard to negate the activation. Pretty good, honestly. Like, that's just a spell and trap negate. Like, theoretically, unless you super polyed into this, it's still live. You super poly into it because it'll just banish itself, but if you summon this via your own deck, you would obviously have the materials engraved to go ahead and keep this card on field. Pretty decent, right? It's like a spell and trap negate that also gets you a piece back, whatever, from what you used to make it. There's actually value in this card. This card could actually maybe find a home at some point in the future. And lastly, I think we have a new zombie card. It's a new zombie Link 2. I love the artwork on this. Just very cool. Ghost ship. This is Flying Mary. This is a Link 2 water zombie Link monster. 0 attack, and it points left and right. That's the only weird thing about this card, is it doesn't point down at all. It's only left and right. You can only use both of its effects once per turn. You can target one level 5 or higher zombie monster in your graveyard or banishment. Place this card face up into your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, and if you do, special summon that monster. If this card is a continuous spell, you can target one level 5 or higher zombie monster you control, destroy one monster where your opponent controls with equal or lower attack. Okay. I mean, this card's interesting for sure. I mean, it is just like kind of a decent like extender. For sure. This is not a bad card. Is it anything like out of this world? Not necessarily. They already had is it Vendred Savior, the Link 2 that like in battle phase gets to foolish a zombie. There's the Link 2 Vampire Sucker, who like, you know what I mean, can get you draws, I guess. And then you have this card. You add this card to the pool of like playable zombie Link cards. There's some interesting stuff there. It feels like zombies need some kind of new engine to kind of like feed into the rest of the zombie stuff, to kind of get it up to speed. But this card certainly doesn't help, or doesn't hurt. I mean, I would not be surprised if like some other like new zombie strategy maybe come out, or an engine that maybe helps them out, and then this is just like a super easy Link 2 you play, because, you know what I mean, you can just get into this and this gets one of your level 5s back. Especially with Zombie World on the field as well, making everything in the graveyard zombie. So any level 5 or higher monster, basically, this can get back, even if it's not originally a zombie. And then just the spot removal later on is just a bonus. But obviously this first effect is definitely the main effect we're worried about here. All in all, like, pretty interesting. Like, honestly. Not the craziest thing in the world, but it's nice, for sure. Yeah, nothing too crazy here. Like, none of these are like the kind of free agent cards that like break a set wide open, that are going to be the chase card in the set. But if you're a zombie fan, this is a card you'll want. If for as far as keeping an eye out for like super poly stuff, if you're a Cyber Dragon fan, maybe you hold on to a card like this. if you're a big fan of something like Unchained or one of the other strategies that really like being destroyed by card effects, this card could be maybe something you look at. And then this one's definitely the least interesting. But if you're a big Cybers fan, you could store this just for maybe some random point where this card's actually low-key kind of important. But yeah, there you go. Nothing too crazy. Interesting to see here. Definitely wasn't expecting just like a couple of random free agent cards tonight. Still expect a lot of news throughout the rest of this week, even if it's not all Rage of the Abyss. We will see, because we also got confirmation that on the 21st we're getting all of the we're going to get the live stream in the OCG for Rage of the Abyss, which will cover a handful of things that they don't cover prior to that. So we'll keep an eye on that. But anyway, I'm out of here for today. I will keep you posted with anything else news-wise that drops going forward. So subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on all things Yu-Gi-Oh! News in that regard. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on any of these new cards. Is there any extra synergy or interesting notes that I didn't mention here? I'd love to hear your thoughts on those down below. Peace.